Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing a very hot topic right now, and that is, of course, the AI replacement narrative. Specifically, because this is a finance focused channel, I'll be discussing whether or not I think that AI is going to replace all the finance jobs and push the people out. This is, of course, coming in a time frame where we're seeing massive layoffs and we're seeing polls from CEOs and large executives all saying that they're trying to minimize costs and look into the future of how AI can actually reduce those costs. And so we've definitely seen a lot of narratives. I'd say we have two really extreme ends and then a lot in the middle. Those extreme ends coming from either the camp that says AI is going to replace all humans from all occupations and we're all going to be on universal income. I know you know the people I'm talking about with that one. Or on the flip side, you also have the people who bring up almost like the cyborg arguments, where everyone's going to be implemented with AI and we're going to become human cyborgs and superhumans. And this is going to be the next evolution of humanity. And then you have what I would consider more my opinion, where I think a lot of the more sane people who aren't on either end of the spectrum kind of reside. And that is, this is probably going to be another great technological advancement that really kind of disrupts some of the existing industries, but won't push out the entirety of humans. Instead, I view AI as something that is going to come about and it will replace financial professionals, but more likely than not, it'll replace the bad financial professionals who don't refuse to adapt to the current environment and will leave those who are really willing and able to adapt in a much better position. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So first things first, how is AI going to interrupt current financial roles? I'll start us off with financial analysts because I find this really fascinating, and this is a space where a lot of people are already complaining about AI. I know you've seen the articles that certain LLMs can actually pass the CFA exams, and it has everyone freaking out. So this actually had me kind of consider some things. And I actually, in testing my own theory, went to Claude and I had it build me out a DCF model of Build a Bear Workshop. Why Build a Bear Workshop? Well, it's a position of mine that's seen some really insane price action lately, and it's almost kind of tested my thesis in a way. And so I wanted to see, was I crazy? What's going on? And quickly, what I realized is a lot of people, when they try and utilize AI, specifically financial analysts, they're going to just be asking it to make valuation models. And that's decent. But one of the things that I kind of found immediately right off the bat was that it wasn't actually integrating a large piece of the puzzle. Sure, it got about 80% of the way there, just doing financials and taking management's words just spot on, but it lacks the human judgment. And what do I mean by that? Well, there were three things that kind of stood out to me right away. The first thing that you definitely want to implement into a model of some sort in your assumptions would be the massive stock buyback program that had been completely missed. Now, this is a major thing for a company the size of Build a Bear Workshop because they have it in their budget to buy back $100 million of Build a Bear Workshop shares. And currently their market value is about 500 million. So this would be a sizable buyback if they intend on retiring those shares. And that's something that absolutely you'd want to implement. But obviously Claude didn't because I didn't bring up, hey, you should implement this buyback. But the point being that a lot of analysts that didn't have that outside thought wouldn't implement that and ask to refine it. Additionally, another thing that stood out was something from their most recent earnings report for me, and that was their new succession plan. Like a lot of companies, they're switching up their CEO. This one's just retiring. They've done a good job, but you'd want to see kind of the track record of the person coming in, especially because it was an internal hire. You'd want to see their track record in their department and try and figure out how they would apply that. And this would definitely be something that looking on, you would want to implement into your assumptions. And obviously, Claude didn't because I didn't ask Claude to. But these are the types of things that you can add judgment to that will definitely shape value. And then finally, we had another thing that was brought up in their earnings call where they're kind of building a spotlight location in a theme park that they're going to be spending a significant amount of money on. And they even brought up in kind of corporate jargon that they aren't necessarily expecting the return on investment immediately to be great. This is much more of a long term play. But because it's such a big expenditure, you'd want that to be implemented somewhere. And I asked it, and obviously it wasn't implemented because I didn't ask it to. So, my point being that financial analysts who don't really care, don't really look in, and don't have a background knowledge of the company are likely to probably be replaced, but it's not going to be by just LLMs. It's going to be by other financial analysts who have actually put in the hours, logged the hours, done the extra work, and have come in with a knowledge base of the company. And those are going to be the types of things where, yeah, sure, a Claude can get you 80% of the way with just probably not good prompting skills, but the other people who bring in that background knowledge and are then able to implement that on top are going to be greatly advancing past those who just kind of learn LLMs through copy and paste. Another area of the financial services industry that we've heard a lot about replacement and discussions on is the financial advising slash financial planning area. And one of the major concerns with this, and definitely for me, because I'm more investment focused and orientated, the financial advisor specifically might be getting beat out in the future by the Charles Schwab robo advisor or the Fidelity one or whatever. Basically, we're seeing a rollout of AI financial advisors that will take significantly less in expense ratios than everyone else. And for me, this is a unique and interesting thing because if we just look at specifically financial advisors, I definitely think there's going to be some displacement when you implement the fact that it's so cheap to get investment planning now through an LLM. Maybe it's not necessarily tailored as well as you'd want, but the individuals who are going to be seeking that out will really care about the difference in expense ratios they pay. Now, on the flip side, I actually think that these types of things are going to be quite good for financial planning. Financial planning, if you're not aware, is basically financial advising, except instead of primarily focusing on investment planning, they focus on a whole plethora of things. So they focus on their cash and debt management, their insurance needs, estate planning, taxation planning, retirement planning, all these different assets. That's kind of where they differentiate themselves. Is instead of just one piece of the puzzle, they're trying to work with the comprehensive puzzle. And I'm not at the point where I'm convinced that an LLM is going to be able to understand each individual's unique situation. Because when you kind of go away from just the broad category of humans in general and you start focusing on the specific financial needs of individual people, it's going to falter because people need different recommendations. And honestly, one of the things that I've kind of learned and even going through a minor in financial planning have seen is it's not necessarily 100% about the advice and making the financial plan. It's how do you get to the people and motivate them to follow through the steps and actually do the actions? Because you can come up with the single most comprehensive, greatest plan ever, and your client still isn't going to be motivated to actually go through those steps. And something like an LLM is really easy to just log off and forget about. But if and then also if you're coming back to that LLM, most of the time they just like glaze the hell out of you. So there's no like, hey, there's this come to Jesus moment that comes with going to a face-to-face professional when you haven't been doing the recommendations and they're just going to shoot it straight with you and be like, listen, we need to reduce our expenses right now. You're living like a king. You can live a good life, but you can't live like a king or you're going to be homeless. And I don't think that's going to be the things that the LLMs are going to hold on to and understand. It's going to hold on to when people describe their financial situation and say they're really happy and they're good with their financial situation, and it's going to be too kind. So it's in that human judgment section that I really think financial planning has the means to stand out. Not saying that financial advising won't also have that, but we're just dealing with more pieces of the puzzle with planning, and with more pieces of the puzzle gives you more opportunities to stand out versus LLMs. Now, let's pivot to the asset management and fund management. This is a really interesting one for me because this is kind of my dream landing destination. It's what I find the most interesting, just managing large pools of investments. Here's the thing about asset management and why I'm not as concerned about an AI replacement narrative. We've already had algorithms in this space for decades, and they have, in a way, replaced some of the human roles, such as instantaneous trading. The algorithms can do that better, but you still have the existence of people in the space that outperform greatly. Like, we still have the quants. The quants are already kind of implementing things, and they're doing it in ways that wouldn't necessarily be replaced by, well, AI. Additionally, one of the things that I've thought about and found really interesting is that if we have AI managing large pools of money and it finds alpha, it finds opportunities to really outperform the market and finds these opportunities. By the time it kind of all the other AIs catch on and pull all of their money, it's going to completely delete that edge. Basically, if you know anything about factors, one of the really interesting things that I find about factor investing, like the big ones, the value and the growth, for all of the really successful ones, the value, growth, momentum, whatever, there's a whole plethora of them that worked in a very specific time frame. And then once investors found out about them and the research was published on them, everyone pulled to these investment strategies and just completely got rid of any opportunity to outperform in them. And so I think you're going to see a similar thing with the AI. If it is managing all of these pools of money, you're going to see it kind of delete its returns in a way by all of them just pulling in at once. And then if you have some individuals who are really optimistic, they might try and figure out and jump ahead of the things, and they're going to be the ones who become really profitable from this, not the massive AI. So, overall, in asset management, what I think is going to end up happening is you are going to see the people who are kind of just scraping by, not doing all of the fundamental research, taking the shortcuts. They can definitely be replaced, but you're still going to have a lot of professionals who outperform, maintain their place, and do really good. Now, let's get to a hot subject area. One of the areas where, if you talk to kids going into finance in colleges, where do you want to end up? They'll say investment banking. Now, I personally don't fall into this because 80-hour work weeks and potentially dying at 25 doesn't sound like fun to me. But if you want to start out and get ridiculously high starting salaries, investment banking is the place to be. And this is a really interesting one because, yes, you have your PowerPoint creation and stuff that I think can absolutely be automated and is being automated very, very well. But one of the things that I think the investment banking and sales industry kind of stands to benefit from is how much of a human factor is in that space. Specifically, if I take a personal example, all of us have probably at some point, especially if you're near a student or anything like that, all of us have probably witnessed somebody who took the ideas from ChatGPT on a presentation and just ran with it and said it word for word. And it doesn't sound real. It's not genuine. It sounds terrible. I'm not a fan at all. And it really just it if those presentations suck, I cannot imagine trying to go on a roadshow to generate a significant sum of money and interest in a company that's going public and being like, this company is going to be an innovator in the space. Here are 3 reasons why I think that. Number one, like, I can't imagine that going well in any universe. And of course, we would replace the humans eventually and just have Jarvis tell you all of the wonderful things about this company. But at that point, why even show up? Why not just send me an email? And these are going to be the types of things where if we've received emails, I definitely feel like in-person sales is going to work a lot better than emails for the vast majority of people. We like to see a person, we like to interact with people. We like to ask them questions and not have to sit there for 15 seconds while something creates the perfect response for us or whatnot. We like to have genuine human reactions. And the industries that kind of lean heavily into that are definitely going to benefit overall from AI because, hey, we can automate the parts that we aren't really adding a bunch of quality. Like by the 15th time you've edited the PowerPoint, you might have improved it like 0.1%. Like there's not really a point in realigning the stuff each and every separate time. And we can automate that off rip and do that portion. And then we can actually focus more on where we're providing value. And that's in the human interaction and the sales and the conversations. Now, here's why I think a lot of people are actually being detrimental to their future growth by really buying into the replacement narrative. The first thing I want to discuss is I've seen a lot of really interesting polls where specifically a place like the Wall Street Journal will put out a poll like, hey, how is AI being used in your workplace and where do you see the future of this? And what we're seeing is the individuals who are actually working on it, like a lot of the workers, have very different reactions to the exec boards. And when we look at the exec boards, and a lot of them are quite old, and I don't mean to be like, oh, old people don't know technology, but a lot of them don't. I'm just going to speak bluntly. A lot of them don't fully understand AI. I'd say on average, when I have conversations, the ones where I'm most like, oh, that is not the current situation at all, are from the older crowds. And that makes sense. Typically, when people age out, they stop focusing on all of the new advances in technology and they stop really caring to focus on that. And they're like, oh, remember the good old days when I was really good at this technology that's now obsolete, right? We see that right now with the current CEOs who think that AI currently, not in the future, AI currently is this godsend and it's replaced the whole workforce and we should just fire everyone and save on expenses. And you see that with a lot of them. And then you start to kind of go down the ladder. And when you actually get to like the heads of like the technology departments, I actually went to a forum recently where we had some guest speakers from even like JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank who are kind of figuring out how to implement AI. And my takeaway from that is that when you actually go down the ladder to the people who understand the technology the most, they aren't saying we need to quit hiring and replace all of our workforce. They're saying we need to hire more people and figure out how to better implement this into our current business model. And it's making people exponentially more efficient by cutting out all of the things that we really don't want to focus on and don't particularly add a ton of value, and allowing them to focus more on the things that do actually provide value where humans stand out. And they are hiring more. And that is a really big thing to touch on is there's clearly when you go through the ages, there's clearly different visions of what AI is and what it's doing. And right now, it's not actually what the CEOs think it is. It's more on the technology department levels where they're understanding, hey, there is a massive benefit in hiring the people who are learning how to use this new technology. Another thing I want to touch on is even when you listen to the company heads of these companies that make public podcast appearances, they have no idea where this is headed. They're purely speculating, and you see that with the mass array in answers. You'll hear the AI replacement narratives, you'll hear the superhuman narratives. They don't understand, and they're hyping it up because they're trying to sell investors on their products. You've seen this throughout human history. The internet was going to replace everyone. It didn't. It was a great, fantastic tool. You've seen this throughout time. Anytime new technologies come and they disrupt things, people are scared and they think they're going to be replaced. And instead, what happens is you see those people eventually just adapt and focus on the new roles. And it's going to create new roles, is my point. And it should be a sign that all of the people who are hyping it up have vastly different answers. I feel like if it was a clear cut narrative, this is what's going to happen, more of them would be aligned. But right now, they aren't as aligned. And I think that really stands out. And then the last thing I want to touch on with hyperfixating on the replacement narrative is that it's going to absolutely zap your motivation and make you miserable. So here's the thing, and I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate, right? If the replacement narrative is 100% correct, AI is going to replace all of us. We don't have a time frame on that. It could be decades in the future. And right now, buying into the replacement narrative makes you not want to learn, makes you not want to grow, makes you not want to pick up new skills because, hey, AI can just do it for me and it's going to replace me, so what's the point? And that's the type of thinking that is going to make you miserable. And if it takes 30 years, that is a really, really long time for, well, pretty much everyone. If it's going to take 30 years, would you rather be miserable for the 29 building up to it? Or would you rather still be trying to learn and grow and fight and then only be miserable the 1 year? And that's kind of like a bad way to think about this, but it's a practical way to think about this. It being miserable for that long, it's going to do a number for your stress. It's probably going to reduce your life based on the stress and misery and not wanting to actually improve or grow. And that is not something that we should be doing right now. Even if that narrative is true, we don't have a time frame on it. And so I would rather be blissfully happy and still thinking that I can bring something to the table rather than just being miserable all the time. So what can you do now? Well, I'd say embrace the new technology, right? Just because, and I brought this up earlier, just because the LLMs right now can pass the CFA exam doesn't mean it's going to use that entire knowledge base in every single response and prompt. It is going to take somebody who has also gone through the CFA program and understands all of the different aspects of it in order to actually prompt it well to use that information. So, point being, having knowledge and having critical thinking is not gone out the window. In fact, it's probably become more important because people are going to be relying on these things, and you're going to be one of the people who's going to want to stand out by being able to correct it, being able to think critically and bring background information and say, how can I implement this? Where other people who did just grow up just copy and pasting into LLMs or just typing exactly what their boss wanted into an LLM are going to be left in the dust. Additionally, one of the things that I think everyone is going to benefit right now from is going to be improving face to face communication skills. While the technical skills might be less important because now, hey, AI can do them or whatnot, you're still going to have to communicate to people. Because here's the thing, we have implemented algorithms and technology into a whole plethora of fields that involve human interactions. And from firsthand watching other people and experiencing myself, and I think a lot of us are kind of in agreement, those interactions are not always the most pleasant. Where an individual would be able to help us in a heartbeat, we have to sit there and screech through the phone at the thing and be like, hey, damn it, give me a real person so that I can talk to someone who will actually understand what I need versus the three options I'm given. And that's going to be a very similar thing. While it will be able to adapt and think on to that, it's not always the most helpful, and it does not replace human communication. And we see that with the people who are trying to make it replace human communication and their unfortunate outcomes. We are seeing that in real time. So try and learn to better communicate with people, jump out of your comfort zone, because those are going to be the things that if they do get replaced, it's going to take a really long time and they may never get replaced. So understand that that is probably going to become your biggest strength and selling point in the future over AI and LLMs and really embrace that. So, overall, with my ending advice, I would say to utilize AI and embrace it, but do it in ways that grow you professionally. Utilize your critical thinking and background knowledge and better improve on your uses for AI because everyone's going to be coming in and trying to figure this out all at once. And the best thing is, people are looking to reward you for your knowledge base in this. And you don't even have to be the best because being the best changes almost daily. So just being able to use it in ways that are outside of just basically making it a glorified Google search are going to be things that really benefit you. And so try and find those ways and try and build those skills so that you can have background knowledge and you can have the critical thinking and you can actually use it as a tool and not just have it replace you. Because if you can have it replace you, other people will have it replace you. Instead, utilize it in the best ways possible. Overall, AI will change and alter the game. It'll change roles, it'll change responsibilities, and I definitely think some people will be left behind because we've seen those people fail to adapt it. Technologies like smartphones. It took forever for a lot of people to move on and say, okay, this is the landscape now. Some people still have it. Google, right? The internet. We see people still today who have not adapted. We we see this through a lot of technology advances that people refuse to kind of pick up and learn, and it's going to leave them behind. It has repeatedly, it's stunted growth, it's done all of these things. And on the flip side, the people who really take advantage of this, because everyone is kind of on the same playing field right now. I mean, sure, you have a lot of people who are really diving in deep on AI, and maybe you are starting to see a little bit of separation, but we're still close enough to the beginning of this that it's pretty much a level playing field overall. So any skills you're picking up and improving right now are going to be able to help set you apart from the rest of the pack. So overall, I would not focus on the replacement narrative, and I would still be trying to learn and grow with the new technology. Thank you for checking out my video. I really appreciate your time. If you've made it this far, please consider liking and subscribing. It means a lot to me, and it really does help with the channel growth going forward. So thank you very much.